Well, good afternoon, everybody. The H1B Guy here, and this afternoon, the H1B Guy live, green card wastage, processing delays, rumors, and Q&A. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. And you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Today's live stream is brought to you by recruiternetworks.com, by Path to Canada, and by PERM-ads.com. I also wanted to mention before we get started that my friends Marc Pavlopolous and Daniel Mandelbaum are hosting another Syndesus webinar. There's actually two that they have set up over the next month on September 13th at 12 p.m. Pacific time and 3 p.m. Eastern, and then again on October 11th at 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern. I will share the link to the registration for this webinar in the video description below after we wrap up this afternoon. I also tweeted it out earlier, and you can click that live directly from my link and it'll take you in and you can register. But as I said earlier, I think if you're an employer looking at Canada as a global parking option, or if you're an employee who needs to suggest to your employer about global parking in Canada for H1B or OPT employees. The guys at Syndesus, Marc and Daniel, who's a Canadian immigration attorney, they are my go-to resources. And I work with them very closely for a lot of my different clients here and helping them consider this option. So just wanted to mention that before we get started. Of course, we'll do a Q&A here. If you have any questions or comments, just post those in the chat, and we'll get to them here this afternoon towards the end of the Q&A. It's hard to believe that it's been a month since I've had an opportunity to do a live stream. I think it was back on August the 4th. Was the last time that I was live here with you guys. Just a lot going on here behind the scenes for the H1B Guy and me professionally speaking, which is fantastic. It's great to be busy and have a lot going on. Of course, been putting out my normal content, my H1B Guy news every Friday. Recently posted last week the H1B Guy forecast, October 2021 visa bulletin. So a lot of different things that I've been working on. I also, last week posted a video on, EB2 to EB3 downgrades. That's also gotten a fair amount of traction from you guys. So we really appreciate all of your continued and ongoing support. Thank you to those who've taken the time to jump in here this afternoon. Like I said, if you have questions or comments, post those in the chat and we'll be sure to cover them. Thought it was interesting, over the last couple of weeks, if you go back to, Chats with Charlie, episode 6, and what was really shared from a data standpoint. And we had, the deputy director, Tracy Renaud, testify as part of a lawsuit, the Chakrabarti v. USCIS, where went on record and said that expects USCIS to waste about 80,000 employment-based green cards. But the other side to that is that they're going to process 180,000 roughly. So if you look at historical data, and this is something that Charlie Oppenheim has mentioned, historically speaking, the 140,000 annual allotment, USCIS has processed around 98% on average. So when you look at them processing 180,000, roughly 40,000 more than they've processed historically in an all-time high. It's one of these interesting problems. And the problem is that it comes down to capabilities, i.e. human capital. the ability to have the certifying officers that can process the adjustments of status. And I think it'll be an ongoing issue unless USCIS is able to ramp up their current staff. I think even going into next year, um, it's really, to me, interesting um, what that's going to mean. We're talking about an all-time annual high in employment-based allotment going into fiscal year 2022. So I think the line to beat right now, if you look at forecasting into next year and what that means, I think you're looking at another 180,000 is sort of the bar. So you can start to do your math and kind of back up the cases that are currently in the queue based on I-140 approvals. And when you start to look at that, it starts to become a reason why a lot of you are asking me about retrogression and what I think about it. I think that if you take away the notes from chats with Charlie, where he talks about very specifically, um, he wants to avoid retrogression, but if it happens, it will happen towards the end of the year. And that gives you the July, August, September, the Q4, if you will, of fiscal year 2022, where retrogression could be a possibility. And it could be a possibility because you're talking about the dates were moved forward based on an assumption of 260,000 plus. Now we're at a deficit of 80,000, and if you add that in, we're looking at 290,000 next year. But they're only going to be able to process 180,000. So I think that you'll see a slowing. If you look at my October forecast, my October predictions, we saw a slowing. That's at least what I'm predicting, like literally a month movement in most of the categories. And that may be even aggressive. We'll see. Of course, I think we'll see something over the next week and a half or so. That bulletin will come out. And that's going to tell us a lot. October, historically, we've seen a lot of advanced movement. In October, as we've heard, they're going to accept dates of filing. So I expect there has to be some movement in that sense to accept dates of filing. USCIS will be accepting dates of filing. So it'll be really interesting. And I think that this is going to be an ongoing issue. And it'll reach a culmination unless there's reform. And what is that reform? I've talked about the Eagle Act. A lot of you are big proponents of the Eagle Act. Where's the Eagle Act? Where is it on the House floor? And why haven't we heard from it? It's interesting because it's a lot of similar language to what we saw in the Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants Act that had significant support in the House. I haven't seen any updates on when it is expected to be called to the floor. I thought it'd be 60 days from when it came out, which was back in May, and here we are September, and it hasn't been heard from. So definitely, really interested in following and tracking that very closely. So wanted to move on and talk about the continued ongoing delays that we're seeing. We're still seeing these historic delays, historic in Texas specifically, where there are just some really crazy backed up across multiple visa categories. And so the question becomes, what's the issue there, right? Is it mismanagement? Is it human capital? And the delays I'm talking about, adjustments of status delays. Specifically, we're also looking at other delays, H4 delays. I've even heard of some new EAD delays that are coming up. So we're seeing delays continue to be a problem and an issue across the board. And you have to wonder, like, as things continue to get better, we've seen some improvements. Personally, I think I've seen some improvements in the way that the cultural shift is starting to happen, and I think that comes with the acceptance of Urjadu. You see Tracy Renaud is really all over as deputy director, and I think that you're starting to see some accountability that's beginning to happen, across the board for USCIS and the awareness that's been created around their processing delays and how it's impacted the lives of a lot of women specifically. And so The hope is that we'll continue to see things get better. But for right now, it's been sort of ho hum in that, in terms of updates and um, uh, increased processing capabilities. It's just a human capital issue. I've talked about this a good bit. It's a human capital issue across the board. But again, very interesting to see how this is playing itself out. Wanted to move on to a couple of the rumors that I've been hearing, which I think some of you, of course, you keep up with it just as much as I do, and maybe have seen it come up. But I'm hearing rumors of a possibility of H4 EAD premium processing will finally be open. And that's pretty interesting. I think one of the things I've talked about, and why haven't they done this so far, specifically H4EAD processing, it comes down to human capital. But I also go back to premium processing is the number one revenue generator for USCIS. Think about that. The number one revenue generator for USCIS. So if I'm looking to ramp up my staffing capabilities, I think I would look to collect more fees. It's just me. Makes sense. If you need more human capital, you need the financial capital to be able to hire them, and it's so that I think could potentially be a game changer. I don't know whether I like the H4 EAD premium processing option or not. I think it just comes down to it seems like to me it's another way to collect more fees. Why not just put it onto the primary sponsors premium processing and adjudicate, approve those at the same time? That just it seems a little backwards to me, but I guess if they're going to get 22 20 22 25, I think is the cost. Off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's well over $2,000. So I guess that if they're going to collect $2,000 plus a pop, and you're looking at somewhere between 2 to 3,000 H4 EADs that are in limbo right now, that'd be willing to come off of that. Um, some significant fee collection that could happen pretty quickly. I'd say within a matter of probably 5 to 10 business days, you may see anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 individuals decide to enact that premium processing on H4 EAD. But I'm also really looking at a lot of the electronic filing changes that are happening. If we go back to the OPT EAD and the way that I-765 is being handled, I'm really interested to see what will happen over the next few months as it relates to electronic filings for other forms. I am hearing some rumors of some potential possibilities towards the end of the year, of some announcements that may come out about some updated forms that may be potentially moving to electronic filing. I don't have any official terms on that, but I'll just to close up the loop on the H4 EAD. And what I've been hearing is that they're expecting announcement towards the end of September, and possibly with that opening up for upgrading to premium processing in early mid October, right at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on that. But yeah, good rumor there that H4 EAD premium processing sounds like it's on the horizon. And I'm also hearing rumblings that potentially some more electronic filings are going to be available for some alternate statuses. So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on that and see what comes up. Just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, like this video. Subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Make sure you've clicked the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime I go live, like I have here this afternoon. If you're looking for ways that you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so right now through the super chat function on YouTube. If you're watching this at a future date and you're looking to support the H1B Guy, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. I'd like to thank all of our supporters in the past who've taken time to contribute to the H1B Guy platform. You will notice that periodically over time, if you go back and look at some of my older content, the quality here has improved, and it's improved through those financial contributions. I just want to thank all of you who are subscribed to this channel and who check out the H1bguy.com. I always say this in response to when you offer me your kind words of encouragement, is I can't do it without you. This is totally a community effort. I have this really weird niche skill set. And that is I'm a work authorization recruitment expert for employment-based immigration benefits. And through that, I also have a political agenda, and that is I want to see reform in a positive manner for high-skilled immigrants here in this country, and those that are impacted by that. And so I'll continue to advocate for it. I will always go back to the root problem of this issue, and that is a cap on country of birth limits for employment-based immigration. And if we think about what that means, and that the fact is, when we put a 7% cap on 140,000 allotment, and then you have individuals from 2 countries that make up 90% of the non-immigrant temporary high-skilled employment-based work visas, that's where a green card backlog problem is created. And so it goes back to the root problem. I'll continue to talk about that and bring awareness to it. I'm pro clearing the backlog in some manner or form. I think that individuals who have spent their key earning years of their adult life here in this country, under the assumption that there was a path to permanent residency, need reform, and they need help. And I think you've continued to see this sentiment grow over really the last 24 months. So I'll continue to do my best to bring awareness to it and to bring voices to those who don't have one otherwise. So just again, appreciate all of your support. If you have questions or comments, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and start putting those in the chat. I wanted to spend the last couple of minutes just with some quick information on the budget reconciliation. Of course, I've covered this briefly, and we're looking at, September 15th, a week from today. Okay. A week from today, we'll know the exact language of what's going to be included in the budget reconciliation package. And so there's a lot of things swirling right now, but a lot of it I'm not confident will be included. Last Friday during the H1B Guy news for the week ending September 3rd, I covered Representative Raja Krishnamurthy's letter to congressional leaders with 40 other signatures that was asking for the green card backlog reform to be included in the budget reconciliation package. Unfortunately, I don't foresee that being a possibility. Why? I don't think that you'll see that included in the language and make it through the Senate. I don't think that that's something that's going to happen. You're looking at really the parliamentarian for the Judiciary Committee in the Senate is going to have kind of the final say here on the language that is included. I am hearing that the documented dreamers reform protection for kids aging out has a very high probability of being included in that budget reconciliation. Nothing's final yet. No language is final yet. But it looks like there's going to be protections based on a very specific date of entry into the U.S. Of course, over the next week, we'll probably get a lot more clarification around that. But for right now, if you are a documented dreamer, if you have a documented dreamer, it looks like there's a very high probability that protections for those individuals, not just H1B or H4s, but others, E2s as well, are potentially going to be included as part of the language, and it's also going to include DACA as well. So again, that is a very positive move. To me, that's a common sense move. Ultimately, you guys have heard how I've talked about it and how I felt a lot. I've had the documented dreamers on. I hope to have them on again in the next week or so to talk about this more and bring more attention to this issue. But we're definitely keeping our eyes on the budget reconciliation. Again, September 15th is the day. The next week will be very telling. There's going to be a lot of jockeying for position. If you're doing advocacy, if you're calling your representatives and your senators, you've got a week left to do that. My advice is to continue to do that. Make that part of your routine. Let your voice be heard. Just because you don't have a vote doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. Okay. So anyway, that was all I had for you guys today, just in terms of some quick hit topics. I wanted to talk about the green card wastage. Wanted to talk about these continuing processing delays that are happening in USCIS, not only in adjustments to status, but H4 EADs, OPT EADs, and their approval timelines. A couple of rumors that I've been hearing: premium processing announcement potentially coming up at the end of September, and most likely will be offered at the beginning of the fiscal year, early October. I'm also hearing of some additional forms that could be moving to electronic filing, potentially towards the end of the year. So it'll be really interesting to see. Take them for what they are, which are unsubstantiated rumors coming from yours truly. And then I think the elephant in the room, the budget reconciliation, what's going to be included in that for immigration, because there's funds that are being earmarked for it. So there is going to be language for immigration. I can guarantee you DACA is going to be included. But it'll be interesting to see if the documented dreamers get their play in the budget reconciliation. And if there is some sort of language that could potentially have reform for the green card backlog. I'm not as hopeful for that as I am the first two. But again, the fact that you're starting to hear these rumblings within congressional leadership about the need to address the green card backlog and reform around it, I think is a really good thing. So I'm going to move on to Q&A now. So if you're joining us, thank you to everyone who's taken time out of their afternoon to jump in and join me here today. It's great to be live with you. It's been a month, hard to believe. Love being with you guys and spending an hour or so with you when we get the opportunity here on Wednesdays during the business day. If you're having your lunch out on the West Coast, hope you're eating something tasty. For those of us on the East Coast, don't be falling asleep while I'm running through the Q&A if you've already had your lunch. So stand up, walk around, and if you've got a question, post those in the chat. I'll get to them. Just wanted to mention again, if you're looking for ways to support the H1B Guy platform here on YouTube, you can do so through the super chat function. If you're watching this stream at a later date, future time, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. And thank you to everyone who has supported the H1B Guy platform over the last 14 months. Just cannot do this without you, as I always say. So I'm going to jump into the Q&A. Let's go. Post your questions in the chat. Post your comments. Tube or not tube? Hi there. How you doing? Want to thank you. I got my green card last year after about 12 years of long wait. Your channel was very useful last year. Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad to hear that you made it. I think if I look at the demographics and analytics around who consumes my content, it's you, high skilled immigrants that have come to the U.S. that are or were stuck in the green card backlog. So glad to see that that your date's advanced to a point. But look at that, 12 years. I'm just going to do some very quick on-air calculations. 12 times 365, because I can't do that in my head. It's 4,380 days that you potentially waited in the green card backlog. That's amazing if you think about it. 4,380 days that you waited in the green card backlog. When you put it to that kind of context, right? You basically, entered into the country, began working under H1B or probably, 2004, 5, or 6. Had your I-140 approved in 2009, and here you are, maybe 2008, 2020, end of 2020 was your lucky day. Your number got called. But thanks for joining Tube or not Tube. Really appreciate your support. Hey, David, how are you? Good afternoon. Any news about U.S. lifting a ban for UE citizen? So I actually heard a rumor, and I shared this with a couple people who I keep up with. And thanks to my friend Pete for the hat tip. Pete, if you're watching, or if you check this out at a later date, man, sorry I hadn't gotten back to you, but really appreciate you reaching out. My good friend Pete said that he's seen dates start to open up in the UK for October and November, but they've been going really quickly. It's like they flash open, they're consumed, and then they're not open. So if you're referring to the UK, I don't think that there's the ban has been lifted per se, but it sounds like that they are actually taking some consulate appointments. If you are referring to United Arab Immigrants, UAE, I don't believe that there's a ban for UAE because I've heard of some individuals that have been quarantining in Dubai before coming to the US. But hey, David, thanks. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, just drop me a comment in the chat and I'll get to it as I roll through these. Hey, Yogesh, how are you? Nice to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Hey, Raul, do I think EB2 filing date will move to February 2012 in the October visa bulletin? So my filing date prediction right now that I have is pretty conservative. I have January 1st, 2012. I think there's some of you that have been asking me about February. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think you'll see January 1st, 2012 for October and November, and then I think you'll see a jump in December. So hang in there. But the problem is that I don't think dates of filing will be accepted in December. I think you'll see dates of filing accepted in October and November of this year. And then I think you'll see them go back to final action dates starting in December, January. Now, the good news is for application filing dates of filing, at least you can begin to prepare your documentations and become documentarily qualified so that when in potentially 6 to 12 months in advance of, let's say, December, so you could be looking at anywhere between June and December of 2022 for your final action date to become current. But hang in there, Rahul. You've waited a long time, man. You're super close. I think we're going to see some movement, but I think it'll be January 2012 for dates of filing. But if you go back to my looking ahead to October video, which I posted back in the beginning of July, I had it all the way to June 1st, 2012. But just again, if I go back to the Chats with Charlie episodes 5 and 6, and I read the tone feels like there isn't going to be as much movement, and it's just based on the lack of processing, even though they're going to process 180,000. Hey, Rashab, how are you? Hi, do I think the recent lawsuit to save green card wastage, what is the class action lawsuit? Well, what's interesting about Chakrabarti v. USCIS, okay? And you've got some really high-powered immigration attorneys behind it. The Chakrabarti v. USCIS, what was interesting about the hearing that happened in the district court in Maryland is that the judge did not hear anything from the plaintiffs. He only wanted to hear from USCIS. So typically, those an update. I'm surprised we haven't already heard an update because I think that hearing was either Thursday or Friday of last week. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, actually, because I covered it on the news last week as well. But it goes back to a comment that I've been saying to all of you for quite some time, and that's it seems like it takes a lawsuit to get the government's attention and block them from some of these crazy notices that they've put up for proposed rulemaking and some of these other changes that they've done. I think the issue here with the way that the law has read is that if they don't use them, then it's a wastage, but it spills back over to family-based. So, you can take what you want for it, but there's some language in the law and the way it's written that it doesn't really matter what the processing capabilities are. It comes back to, there's 140,000 allotted, even if there's extras, they don't necessarily have to be processed. It's not technically illegal of the government for not processing it. In terms of my opinion, I mean, again, everything I talk about here is non-legal, right? I'm not an attorney. If you need one, you need to consult with an immigration attorney. Everything that I discuss here is really as it relates to maintaining employment-based work authorization. So we'll see. But the lawsuit has that the Chakra Buddy v. USCIS, again, some very high powered immigration attorneys behind it. They're very good at what they do. It'll be interesting to see how this judge rules because he did not hear from the plaintiffs on the case. Hey, Sue, how are you? Saying that you cannot renew H1B when your priority is current after your 6 years on H1B. Can we request for expedited processing on an EAD considering delays and job is in line? That's interesting. I'd be interested to know what your attorney says about that. My assumption is that as long as you had um, uh, the uh, the I-140 approval, and as long as your adjustment of status hasn't been approved, only received, I was under the assumption that you could extend during that gap, but I may be wrong on that. But if you're in jeopardy of losing your job, I would absolutely look at expedited processing as an option. And I believe that you can pay for that on your own. When you look at premium processing around I-140 and I-45, I believe that you can upgrade that to premium processing, or at least request I-140. I know you can do premium processing. The I-45, I think that would just be a request in terms of your situation and expiration to expedite. Most likely they'll deny that though. But I would definitely talk to your attorney and see what they are advising you there on that, because what you don't want to do is lose your job because of a work authorization issue. I thought though that your H1B extended based on uh, the adjustment of status pending though. I thought that there's something around those, so you may want to ask if there's a way to extend H1B with adjustment of status pending if you don't have the EAD, because you'll need your EAD card in hand, or at least approval notice. Hey, Aswara, how are you? Nice to see you. EB2 dates to filing. AOS will reach 2014. Um, I don't think that'll happen in October. I have November 2011, November 1st, 2011 for final action. And I have dates of filing January 1st, 2012 as of right now. Again, October is going to be very interesting. If again, as I referenced earlier, you go back and you look at the chats with Charlie the last couple of episodes and how they've broken down, it seems like that there isn't going to be a whole lot of movement going forward, except for maybe EB2 for India and China. But even so, that it's not a lot. If you're looking for a prediction for me, and this kind of goes back to Aswara, what I was talking about, to downgrade or not to downgrade, if you're in that 13, 14, 15 range right now, and your EB2, this is where you may want to give it some consideration. I'm not telling you to do it, but I would at least seek some consultation with your employer and their attorney. That may be something you want to think, because I don't think we're going to see EB2 dates reach 2014 until the end of fiscal year 2023 or the beginning of or middle of 2024. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you this afternoon. Hey, Nilesh, how are you? Thanks for helping the community. Really appreciate the same. What are all the options available if H1B extension doesn't get approved and I-485 applied in October 2020 and waiting for EAD AP? Yeah, that's what I was. That's what Sue V is asking as well. So this is a gap that's being created right now. I would think there has to be some sort of automatic extension eligibility if you're currently still on H. I don't see how they could approve it if how they could deny it if your adjustment of status has been pending for more than 180 days, right? Because that's sort of the line of demarcation. I'd be interested to know what your attorney says and what they're advising, because it sounds like this is a gap that's being created right now based on these historic delays in the adjustment of processing. But hey, Nilesh, thanks for jumping in. I hope that helps. Again, my best advice is I'd go to your attorney to see, because you got to have that card in hand to have the work authorization. But if your extension is pending, as long as your H1B extension has been filed and you have a receipt notice, you're still in status. Is there a possibility for 485, I-131, 765 premium processing? Yeah, so the I-45 is an interesting one. There's premium processing for the I-140 right now. The I-765 is I believe it's going to come. I think you'll see it for H4 EADs to start out with. But will be interesting to see, if they begin to offer that for OPT EADs or other, EAD statuses. As for the 131, I'm not as certain on that one, but I think in order for them to offer premium processing to for adjustments of status, they've got to have the capabilities to process it. When you look at the piles and piles that have occurred, if you go back to the downgrades in October of 2020, I don't see that would be a possibility anytime soon for them to offer that. But I-765, yeah, I mean, I think we're potentially going to see that in the beginning of October. Announcement potentially forthcoming towards the end of September. Just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, to please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so you're notified anytime we go live, like I have here this afternoon. If you're looking for ways to support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so through super chats here on YouTube, or if you're watching this at a future date, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. And just wanted to thank everyone who's taken time to support the channel over the last 14 months. I just can't do this without you. Hey, Hari, how are you? Priority date is October 2016 EB3. What is your prediction, please? At least I-485 and EAD will work for now. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, are in that same situation, Hari. I think final action dates, I don't foresee any movement. I think we're going to see January 1st, 2014 for October. As weird as that sounds to come out of my mouth, I think April 1st, 2014, as of right now, is the closest we'll get. I think you're in another one of those windows that we're probably looking at the beginning of fiscal year 2023, maybe even towards the end of fiscal year 2023, into 2024. I think if you look at, you're probably on a 2-year time frame. I don't think you're going to see the aggressive movement that we saw in 2020 for EB3, just based on the number of downgrades that have happened. I think you'll see that will start to slow down. But again, you're close, but you're still probably anywhere between 500 to 700 plus days away. At least for right now, unless there is reform that changes the law, that's at least where I think you are right now. But thanks, Hari. Appreciate you jumping in. NS says, I filed I-485 on August 16th. Received receipt notice for self and wife, not daughter. Received biometrics appointment for self and wife, not daughter. What to do in this situation? First, I would make sure that your immigration attorney is fully aware of this. They generally have points of contact within USCIS that they can reach out to request some clarification on the case. I don't know all of the personal situation in terms of the age of your daughter, but your wife is considered to be a similar dependent, right? They're on H4 together. But maybe your wife's on H4 EAD and your daughter's just on H4 for the time being. I'm not sure. But what I would do first is I would escalate that to your immigration attorney. If they're not aware, I would request that they reach out to their point of contact within USCIS to get some clarification. You can even, if you want, since you have a case number and request, you could even contact the USCIS processing center to see if there was an issue. I'm assuming, since you don't have a receipt for your daughter, that there's something going on there. I don't know why they wouldn't have issued the receipt for her as well, especially if all of those documents were submitted within the same FedEx package. So yeah, rightful to be alarmed. So attorney says that your daughter's check has not been in case cashed as of now. Is it advisable to take along my daughter with us for biometrics? So medicals, if you're referring to medicals, they can be good for up to a calendar year. For biometrics, that one I'm not as positive in, but I think that you could try to take her. I don't know what it could hurt, other than you would have to take her again at some future point. But the check not being cashed is cause for concern for me. I would definitely go back to the attorney and ask them on the FedEx tracking if it was received by USCIS. I think that would be where I would start. You got to work your way backwards. And so that means the FedEx package that was submitted and received. I know each are individual payments. But yeah, I would start there, start with the FedEx shipment in terms of that, make sure that it was received. And then, with the check not being cashed, but as I'm assuming yours and yours and your spouse's have been, if they're separate payments, yeah, that would definitely be cause for concern. Fingers crossed for you, my friend. Best of luck. But for right now, my advice to you is definitely to move forward, get your appointments for you and your spouse. You can take your daughter along and see what happens. But again, the worst that could happen is that they don't do it, or that you have to take her back once you get this issue resolved. Hey VR, how are you? EB2 December 2012. Do I wait or downgrade? Please suggest. Yeah, man, that's interesting. So here's how I'll do my math on this for you. I think January 1st, 2012. There are some out there that think it could be more aggressive forward than that. As I said, if you go to my looking back, looking ahead, October 2021 that I did back in July, I said June of 2012. So the question becomes, how quickly can the downgrade be approved? And then, your eligibility based on either dates of filing or final action dates. You're kind of in that tweener. As I said, I'm cut off right now. I'm saying January 2013. So you're a month out from that. If you do decide to do it, again, you may want to look at the premium processing, but there's a lot that say not to do that for the I-140 downgrade. Excuse me. I would definitely at least request a consultation with your employer and an attorney if this is something you're giving some heavy consideration to. But to me, right now, if I'm you, I'd sit tight and see what October's bulletin says next week, because I've got to feel like the bulletin's going to be out in the next 10 days. So I would look and see what that movement looks like. If it's January, then I think you're looking at another year. And so the question is do you want to downgrade and try to get into the EB3 grouping, or do you wait the year and maybe your dates of filing come up in fiscal year 2023, October of 2022, or maybe you see some movement and you're able to get in there final action date wise. The biggest thing is you're looking to get documentarily qualified so that you're counted in a number, right? And so that's where the downgrade is the best of both worlds. If your date comes up for EB2 while still pending EB3, right? That's something that I've talked about a good bit. But keep me posted, VR. You're in a tough spot. I get it. But thanks for joining this afternoon. Hey, my good friend Napur, how are you? During this time, we've moved many times and lost old renewals. Do have all scanned and original receipts. Yeah, Napur, hey, good friend of the show here. Thank you for reaching out. Always appreciate you joining me. My best advice on your document collection here is to make sure you just have everything physical and digital that you have. And when you've been in this country 12 years, as we talked about earlier, if not longer, as Tube or Not Tube said, and I calculate 4,300 days, it's a lot of documents to collect. So the best thing that I advise you to do here is just make sure you have as much as you can that's as accurate as possible. And what you're looking to do is eliminate questions, right? You're looking to eliminate questions, and that's the biggest thing that I can tell you here. Digital, everything digital with physical. So it's a two-pronged approach. I know you probably already know that, but that's my best advice here. If you lost some old renewals, you could always go back to the immigration attorney that submitted those cases or the employer of record and see if they have copies that they can provide you from a digital perspective. Because there are some that just are lost, but I can tell you through your I-94, there's a pretty good tracking of your enter and exits and all of that, and all your stampings were done under H1B. So good luck, Nipur. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Great to see you, my friend. Always appreciate your support. Hey, Aswara, how long does it take for new perm processing, PWD? How long does it take to get perm approved from DOL? Yeah, this is a great question. We're seeing some pretty significant processings right now. If you were to ask me from initiation to when perm labor would be certified and I-140 can be filed and approved, I'm saying right now anywhere between 14 to 18 months. So it's taken quite a while. It's at least a year plus at this point. And the thing that's the slowest right now is getting your employer to initiate the process, right? That's the slowest thing. That just getting it started, but it is these prevailing wage determinations are taking like 90 days plus. So that's 3 months, if not a little bit longer, where they were around 60 days for the longest time. It's 45 to 60 days. So when you look at that, that's adding a lot of time. The recruitment and the way all of that works now, it's so extensive that I think at a minimum, 12 months is probably the fastest that you'll see it happen. But again, my estimates right now are 14 to 18 months. I am from under EB1C. I-140 is approved. I-693 submitted. PD is 21st December 2020. Biometric done last week. When can I expect my GC? Man, it's going to be here pretty soon, Manish. Congrats to you. I'd say, my best guess, if you're looking for a rough estimate, you're looking at anywhere between 180 days or so. It may be less than that, like 90 to 180 days. So I'd say anywhere between 3 to 6 months, you're going to have that plastic in your hand, man. Congratulations to you. I know you went through a lot, EB1C, for managerial resources that worked at least 1 year in their international office and came here. So congrats to you and your family, Manish, and keep me posted. If you'll shoot me a message, I'd love to hear when you get your card to see if my 3 months or so plus, so 90 to 180 days was accurate. It may be sooner than that. Some may say 45, but I'd say 3 months is a good buffer for you. Absolutely, and us happy to help. Appreciate you joining this afternoon. Nilesh, just thank you for answering my previous question. I got biometric appointment for I-45 receipt only for me and not for my dependents. Yeah, that was the same problem that was happening with NS. It sounds to be kind of a common theme going on. Best advice is while you want to take care of your family, take care of yourself first. And I don't mean that to be negative, but I mean that to you've got to do what you've got to do. You got to get to where you got to get, and then hope that your dependents can follow onto that. You want them to be counted, but man, at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do, Nilesh. So good luck to you. Hari says, waiting for my dependent H4 approvals, filed 6 months back. What is the wait period? I got my H1B approval. What if I need to travel to India on an emergency and the stamping is well not available? Yeah, this is where my advice is don't travel unless you have to. Hopefully, we'll see the H4 premium processing come up, and hopefully that'll be an option for you. But right now, these are some of the historic delays that we're seeing amongst some of the dependent statuses. So, yeah, it is a pathetic situation. Never felt so hopeless. Yeah, you're stuck, man. You can't move. You can't get your dependents approved. Everybody's in limbo. But things are gonna get better. I really believe that, Hari. I think that we've been under some very trying circumstances here. We continue to battle this pandemic, but I really believe that the awareness around high skilled immigrants and the issues around the backlog and the problems that's come up with USCIS and their processing capabilities, I think it's going to get better. So just hang in there, my friend, and keep hope. Hey, AJ, how are you? What are the chances of having employment-based immigration upcoming budget reconciliation? Yeah, I talked about this earlier, AJ, and I'm glad you asked here. You're referring to the Representative Raja Krishnamurthy's letter that included 40 other Congressional House of Representatives signatures to congressional leadership asking for reform to the green card backlog to be included in the reconciliation bill. But I don't foresee the Senate approving language with green card backlog reform and the budget reconciliation. However, I do think that you're going to see immigration reform around DACA and documented dreamers protections for legal childhood arrivals. I think that the best chance right now, and listen, you want to get it in on this, but I don't think it's going to happen. If I can give you any advice, and if any of you are listening to me right now, it is the Eagle Act is your best hope right now. And so continuing to promote and advocate for the Eagle Act is really the best hope. So, hey, I think you missed my early question, but you recovered from it. Appreciate it for the shout out. Let me go back and see. Napur, I don't see it in the chat. So apologies if I missed it. Oh, here it is. As during the time we moved many times that you lost your renewals. Yeah, that was the one that that I'd covered. Sorry if I missed it though. Really appreciate you joining in, and appreciate your support. Absolutely, Manish. Happy to help you. No problem. Hey, Daraj, how are you? My wife is outside USA. Can I file I-145 for her? Yes, she would have to be an adjustment of status under the international consulate processing. I definitely would consult with your attorney on that, but yeah, you can file I-45 for her while she's outside of the U.S. She'll just have to go through the consulate processing with the biometrics and the approvals. Hey, Rahul, is there any talk of visa recapture and the reconciliation? That's an interesting question. There's been the Ming Act that we've seen out there, and the Heroes, I think, is another one. But here we are, and I'll go back to S35 99, right? The Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act. We need reform across the board as it relates to the green card backlog, as it relates to healthcare workers, as it relates to documented dreamers. We just have so many things right now that just are problems. And they're problems because they're restrictive to high skilled immigrants. And ultimately, that restricts our human capital here in the US. Do I think that visa recapture will be part of the reconciliation? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't think so, because if you look at the way the INA reads, there is a process to what happens when there is wastage or spillover, if you will. But great question, Rahul. Thanks for joining me. We'll definitely keep our eyes on it. I know you are. We'll see what happens here. But again, September 15th, a week from today, the final languages of what's going to be in the budget reconciliation will be out. So, hey, Hari, thanks so much for all your help. Much appreciated. Hope Eagle Act comes and everyone gets their GC, and hope the world will be a better place. Yeah, honestly, it's what it comes back to, right? Is equality. It's one of the things that I've spoken of a lot. I have this really unique perspective into the insight and the way that the pipelines for human capital for high skilled immigrants have worked into this country for a long time. Those of you who have followed me for any amount of time know I'm a proponent of a merit-based points immigration system. But understand that, those that say that the H1B, no new H1Bs need to be issued, the H1B needs to be disbanded, that's irrational thought, and that'll never happen. It may change and look differently, but the H1B visa will continue to be a pipeline for non-immigrant, high-skilled workers. It just will, unless we go to some point system, which I don't think we're going to see under this current administration. So here we are, 3 more years of kind of the same old, right? Hey, Doga, do I think if the wage rule will take effect for H1B fiscal year lottery 2023? Oh, great question. Love to talk about this. So any of you who have kept up with me for any amount of time know that I was a proponent of the wage rule for H1B selection, but here's what I still think is going to happen. And this is just merely unsubstantiated opinion. I have no evidence or even inside sources to back this up, but I think we're going to see, because the administration has until the end of the year, and because they didn't kill this H1B wage rule completely, I think we may see some hybrid version of the wage rule. And what I mean by that is I think that you'll see a percentage, 25% of the annual allotment designated to each of the late wage levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I think that you'll also see that there will be wage preference towards the highest wage earners in specific MSAs for those wage levels. And that's how they're going to go about awarding. If that doesn't happen, then I think you'll continue to see the random electronic selection. You'll continue to see, because of it being an electronic selection, a second lottery that'll occur most likely at the end of July annually. Think that that'll be historic. A lot of you have asked me about a third H1B lottery. I don't foresee that happening. I don't think that that'll happen. But again, I've been wrong before, and I'll admit it. And when I change my mind, I'll let you know, and I'll be honest with you. But I don't think a third lottery is a possibility. I still think the wage rule has a very high possibility of happening for next fiscal year, for fiscal year 2023's lottery, which would take place, the beginning of March for a 21-day period. If the administration, if USCIS is going to make this adjustment, they're going to have to do so and let us know something by 12/31, because there is that notice for proposed rulemaking that was the H1B wage rule, which they temporarily suspended till the end of the year. So I'll be keeping my eyes on that. Doga, thanks for reaching out. Really appreciate your support. VRSK, H1B minus 2012, EB2 December. If I downgrade, and meanwhile my dates move in EB2. If my EB2 is current, then what should we do? This is what Charlie Oppenheim was talking about, VR, when he's talking about the best of both worlds. Meaning, if you're filed your downgrade, but your EB2 date comes current while your downgrade is pending, you can then file under EB2. So that's the best of both worlds that Charlie was talking about. I think if I'm you, I would look at what happens with the bulletin, and then I'd consult with your attorney in terms of what they would advise you to do, and how the employer feels about it as well, because they're the ones who ultimately have to approve that. Even though that you can offer to pay for it, you can offer to pay for the downgrade, they still have to approve that. Okay. But good luck to you, VR. Keep me posted. Unless says, hey, H1B and H1B extension approval rates nowadays. Yeah, I covered this. I covered the 2020 not too long ago, and we've seen actually a pretty significant increase that's occurred. I was looking at something where new employment approval rates were well north of 90%, and the same for continuing. If you go back and look at some of the Trump administration era, it was below 90%, where it had dipped to an all-time low. But I thought I saw some new employment that was somewhere around 95% approval. Now, that isn't taking into account data, I think, that was going back to June. I think that was just for the first 2 quarters. But again, right around 90% combined, 90, anywhere between 90 and 93% combined is what you're looking at. That's for new employment, so new H1Bs and continuing extensions, amendments, change of employers. So hovering above 90%, which has been a really good rate here lately. Hey, VR, no problem. Happy to help you. And Suarez says, what is the deadline to pass reconciliation bill? When can we get final version of the bill? Yeah, so it's, if you're going to be included, my understanding is the language is September 15th. But the deadline to pass, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to dig in and research that. But there definitely is a deadline, and they'll have to extend that if they don't meet the deadline based on the votes. But final version, September 15th is what we're looking at there. Just wanted to ask you one last time. I have a couple minutes here left. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so through the super chat function here on YouTube. Or if you're watching this at a future date, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. Just wanted to thank everyone who has supported the H1B Guy platform here over the last 14 months. Just cannot do it without you, and really appreciate your support. But wow, we've covered a lot here today in the hour. We've talked about the possibility of 80,000 employment-based green cards could be wasted because of processing capabilities. We talked about USCIS delays that are continuing. We even see some of those here in the chat. Talked about some of the rumors that I'm hearing specifically around H4 premium processing and some updated online electronic filings that could potentially be coming online towards the end of the year. So we'll keep our eyes on that. We talked about the budget reconciliation. I think that we'll see DACA and documented dreamers, legal childhood arrivals, protections for those. With a date of entry that'll be accompanied in the budget reconciliation. I don't think we'll see anything for the green card backlog included in that. And as Rahul asked a great question, visa recapture, I don't think we'll see that language included on September 15th. And thank you for all of your questions. I know a lot of you, have a lot going on right now. We're highly anticipating that October 2020 visa bulletin to see what kind of movement we have. I'll continue to monitor it and do so very closely. But listen, great to be back with all of you here again this afternoon. It's been a month since I had a chance to do a live stream. So very happy that I could take the time here this afternoon and to connect with all of you. Really appreciate all of you who took time to jump in the chat here today. Tube or not Tube, David, Yogesh, Rahul, Rishab, Suvi, Eswara, Nilesh, Durvas, Hari, Ines, VR, Napur, Manish, and let's see, anyone else? AJ and Doga. Thank you to all of you who took time here to jump in the chat. Really appreciate all of your support. And thanks for your time this afternoon. I wanted to let everyone know one last time about the Syndesus webinars with Marc Pavlopolous and Daniel Mandelbaum. I shared the link on Twitter, and I'll put it in the video description here once the video posts out. Sign up. There's September 13th as well as October the 11th are the two dates for that. But today's live stream was brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads and local job posting since 2001. This national job board network provides recruitment websites in 1,024 major U.S. metro areas. Each local job board is its own portal and is a low-cost resource for immigration recruitment ads for all industries and professions with a low price of $225 per ad or $1,000 per month, regardless of which city you choose. RecruiterNetworks.com. Tell them the H1B guy sent you. And also by Path to Canada. Path to Canada provides an ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H-1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a plan B, and Path to Canada is your answer. They will gladly help you navigate the process. And if you're interested in finding out more, there's a link in the video description below. Be sure to use that, and someone will be in touch with you once you take time to fill out that form. And last, the live stream was brought to you by PERM-Ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating a complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. If you're looking to reduce your costs and overhead associated with PERM labor certification recruitment advertising, let PERM-Ads.com help you. Just wanted to thank all of you again. Nilesh, Napur, thank you so much for your continued support. To all of you who, like my content, who share it on Twitter, who take the time to send me messages, and really just thank you. I really appreciate your friendship, and I can't do this without you. I want to ask you one last time to like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we post new content here to this channel, or we go live like we did here this afternoon on September 8th, 2021 at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you've made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to watch my live stream. I really appreciate your support. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.